Priya Kapoor never imagined that her seemingly perfect husband, Raj Malhotra, could betray her in the most unimaginable way, but the truth was far worse than she could have feared. Raj, charming and successful, had been hiding a dark secret, one that would shatter every ounce of trust in their marriage. Even more shocking was Meera, Priya's own mother, whose warmth and love had always been a source of comfort, until it became part of a betrayal so deep it defied belief. Together, Raj and Meera had secretly plotted a web of deceit, turning the life Priya had known into a nightmare. What started as small, subtle lies escalated into a scandalous affair, pushing Priya to the edge and setting the stage for a revenge that would shock everyone who thought they knew this family. Priya Kapoor appeared to live a life many envied. At 30 years old, she had a comfortable home in suburban New Jersey, a loving husband, and a close relationship with her mother, Meera, who frequently visited from India. On the surface, everything seemed perfect. Neighbors admired the couple, commenting on how devoted Raj Malhotra appeared to be and how Priya's warm smile and graceful presence lit up every gathering. Their social media profiles painted a picture of happiness, family outings, and celebrations that everyone wished they could be part of. Yet, beneath this seemingly flawless exterior, subtle signs of tension began to emerge. Raj, usually attentive and communicative, started coming home later than usual. He would often give vague explanations about work deadlines or sudden business trips, but Priya noticed patterns that didn't add up. Her mother, trusting and warm, saw nothing unusual and continued to praise Raj for his charm and apparent dedication. Priya, however, couldn't shake an uneasy feeling, a whisper in her mind that something was amiss. Small, almost unnoticeable changes in Raj's behavior started to accumulate. He became protective of his phone, deleting messages quickly, avoiding her gaze when she asked questions. Priya felt a growing sense of isolation, as though the very foundation of her marriage was slowly slipping away. She tried to rationalize her fears, convincing herself that it was stress, overwork, or simply her imagination. Yet, late at night, when the house was quiet and only the hum of the refrigerator broke the silence, she felt the creeping weight of doubt pressing against her thoughts. Priya also began observing subtle dynamics between Raj and Meera. At first, she dismissed them as normal warmth between a son-in-law and his mother-in-law. But there were fleeting moments, a glance that lingered too long, a touch that seemed unnecessary, that made Priya's heart race with suspicion. Despite the outward perfection of her home life, Priya's unease soon turned into something sharper, a gnawing suspicion she could no longer ignore. She began noticing patterns that didn't make sense. Raj frequently took calls in another room, his expressions guarded and tense. He left the house at odd hours, often claiming last-minute work emergencies. Priya tried to convince herself it was just stress, but deep inside, she felt a cold certainty that something was terribly wrong. Her mother, Meera, remained oblivious, treating Raj with the same trust and warmth she always had. Priya envied her mother's innocence, wishing she could believe so completely, yet the evidence of deception slowly piled up. One afternoon, Priya stumbled upon a series of messages on Raj's laptop. They were brief, seemingly harmless at first glance, but the tone was intimate, personal, and strangely familiar. As she read further, her blood ran cold. The messages weren't with a stranger. They were from Meera, her own mother. The realization struck her like a physical blow. Months of subtle glances, secretive behavior, and unexplained absences suddenly made sense, horrifying in their clarity. Her husband had been betraying her trust, not with someone unknown, but with the one person she had always loved and protected. Priya felt a mixture of disbelief, rage, and heartbreak. Her life, once orderly and predictable, now seemed like a twisted illusion. Every memory, every smile shared between them, was suddenly tainted by the knowledge of betrayal. She realized the depth of the deception was far greater than she had imagined. The shock of the hidden affair left her paralyzed for a time, unable to confront either of them directly. Yet beneath her shock, a cold determination began to take shape. Priya knew she had to act, but she also understood that any move required patience, strategy, and precision. The discovery of the affair had changed everything, and nothing would ever be the same again. As Priya absorbed the shocking truth about Raj and her mother, Meera, a sense of disbelief gave way to intense anger. She replayed moments in her mind, trying to reconcile the outwardly perfect life with the hidden betrayal. Every shared laugh, every gesture of affection, suddenly carried a taint of deception. It became painfully clear that Raj had spent months manipulating both her and her mother, carefully constructing a web that would keep the affair hidden. The realization that the man she had trusted most was capable of such calculated betrayal left her stunned and unsettled. Priya's initial shock slowly hardened into a quiet, simmering determination. She studied Raj's and Meera's behavior closely, noticing subtle patterns in their interactions. How they tried to avoid suspicion, the secret glances, the hushed conversations. All of it painted a picture of an affair that was bold yet fragile. She began to understand that both Raj and Meera were underestimating her, believing her naivety would prevent her from uncovering the full truth. That assumption only fueled Priya's resolve. She spent hours researching, thinking through every possible angle. How could she gather evidence without raising suspicion? How could she ensure that the betrayal would be exposed and that those responsible would feel the weight of their actions? As the days passed, Priya meticulously documented every detail, screenshots of messages, photographs, and records of their secretive meetings. Each piece of evidence strengthened her resolve and sharpened her focus. But it wasn't just about exposing them anymore. Priya's mind began to form a plan for retribution, a way to make Raj and Meera understand the full consequences of their betrayal. She realized that confronting them impulsively could backfire, leaving her vulnerable and powerless. Patience became her greatest weapon. Behind the calm exterior she presented to the world, Priya was preparing a strategy that was precise, calculated. Priya knew that acting impulsively could ruin everything she had carefully uncovered. She began to devise a plan that required patience, observation, and meticulous attention to detail. Every move Raj and Meera made became a clue, every routine a piece of the puzzle she needed to manipulate. She watched them closely, noting when they met in secret, the timing of their phone calls, and the way they attempted to conceal their interactions. Each observation added to a mental map of their deceit, one that would guide the course of her revenge. To outsiders, Priya continued her role as the calm, unsuspecting wife. She maintained her daily routines, attended social gatherings, and interacted with Raj and Meera as if nothing had happened. Her smile, gentle and unassuming, masked the storm building beneath the surface. Neighbors and friends continued to praise her composure, unaware that behind closed doors, a quiet but dangerous strategy was unfolding. Priya began documenting everything in secret. Hidden cameras, screenshots of conversations, and careful notes on their schedules became her arsenal. She needed undeniable proof, not just for herself, but for the moment when she would confront the betrayal. Her careful planning ensured that no detail would be overlooked and that Raj and Meera would have nowhere to hide. Each discovery fueled her determination, sharpening the focus of her plan and preparing her for the confrontation that would eventually come. As days turned into weeks, Priya also worked on psychological preparation. She imagined every possible scenario, anticipating how Raj and Meera might react. She considered the risks, the legal consequences, and the emotional toll, ensuring that nothing would destabilize the precision she required. Her mind, once consumed by shock and hurt, had become a calculating machine, focused entirely on executing a plan that combined exposure with retribution. Priya's plan had progressed from careful observation to deliberate psychological manipulation. She began creating subtle tension, small disruptions that would make Raj and Meera uneasy without revealing her awareness. She left objects slightly out of place, mentioned innocuous events that hinted at knowledge she did not yet disclose, and maintained a calm, unreadable demeanor. The couple, once confident in their secret, began to feel the first cracks of doubt and fear. Every glance between Raj and Meera carried suspicion, their interactions growing strained. Priya noticed their discomfort with a quiet satisfaction. She allowed arguments to surface between them, planting seeds of paranoia that made them question one another's loyalty. Each minor conflict made the affair more precarious, exposing vulnerabilities that Priya could later exploit. Her strategy was subtle yet relentless. She was dismantling their sense of security while remaining entirely composed. Priya also continued to gather evidence, documenting every suspicious conversation and secretive gesture. Screenshots, recordings, and photographs accumulated, forming a meticulous record of betrayal. She understood that to deliver her revenge effectively, she needed undeniable proof, not only for herself, but to ensure that Raj and Meera could not manipulate the narrative if confronted. As tension grew, Priya's patience paid off. Raj and Meera became more reckless, careless in their attempts to hide the affair. Their growing fear and suspicion played directly into her hands. Priya remained silent, watching their unraveling with a calm intensity, knowing that the right moment for confrontation was approaching. Every day, she observed the couple sinking deeper into anxiety and guilt, their confidence eroding under the weight of her calculated presence. The psychological pressure she applied was invisible to outsiders, but within the house, it was suffocating. Raj and Meera were trapped in a web of suspicion and the night Priya had been waiting for finally arrived. A storm raged outside, rain lashing against the windows and thunder rumbling in the distance, casting the house in a flickering, uneasy light. She invited Raj and Meera to the home under the guise of a quiet family dinner, carefully choosing a night when the neighbors would be unlikely to notice anything unusual. Every detail had been planned, the timing, the setting, even the lighting, which added an almost cinematic tension to the atmosphere. As the evening progressed, Priya maintained her calm exterior, greeting both with her usual warm smile. Raj and Meera, unaware of how closely she had been watching them, were visibly tense. Their furtive glances, small gestures, and whispered conversations betrayed the fear that had been building over weeks of subtle manipulation. Priya allowed the tension to grow, observing silently, letting them feel the suffocating weight of suspicion and uncertainty. When the moment was right, she guided them into a room away from the rest of the house, a controlled environment where she had prepared to confront the betrayal. She revealed the undeniable evidence she had collected over months: messages, photographs, recordings, leaving no room for denial. Raj and Meera's expressions shifted from shock to panic as the reality of exposure settled over them. What followed was a brutal, calculated confrontation. Priya's anger, carefully restrained for months, exploded in a precise act of vengeance. The affair that had destroyed her trust and shattered her sense of security was met with consequences both physical and psychological. Raj and Meera, stunned and overwhelmed, realized too late the extent to which Priya had planned every detail. The storm outside mirrored the chaos within, thunder and lightning echoing the violence of the night. By the time the confrontation ended, both Raj and Meera were left reeling from the shock and the physical aftermath of Priya's calculated actions. The morning after the storm, the neighborhood was eerily quiet. Rain had soaked the streets, leaving a slick, reflective sheen on the pavement, and the house, once bustling with apparent normalcy, now exuded a tense stillness. Neighbors noticed unusual activity, flickering lights, the sound of movement at odd hours, and a sense that something was terribly wrong. Calls to authorities began as small whispers, but soon escalated when the full extent of the night's events became apparent. Police arrived to find a scene that was both shocking and meticulously organized. Priya had left no room for doubt. The evidence of betrayal was clear and undeniable, documented in detail for investigators to see. Raj and Meera were still in shock, their expressions a mixture of fear, regret, and disbelief at the precision of Priya's plan. Officers and investigators were stunned, noting the careful way she had executed her revenge, leaving the house almost untouched, yet completely revealing the hidden affair. Word of the crime quickly spread through the community. Friends, neighbors, and extended family were left grappling with the revelation that the seemingly perfect family had been hiding a dark secret. The idea that a husband could betray his wife with her own mother, and that she could respond with such calculated vengeance, shocked everyone who had known them. Conversations in the neighborhood, on social media, and in the press reflected a mixture of horror and fascination, as people tried to comprehend the intensity of the betrayal and the ferocity of the response. Priya herself remained composed, answering questions with quiet, controlled explanations. Her calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the chaos around her, leaving investigators to marvel at her psychological strength and planning. The story quickly became a cautionary tale of trust shattered, manipulation exposed, and the extreme consequences that can result when betrayal festers in silence. In the days and weeks that followed, the aftermath of Priya's actions sent shockwaves through the community. The once idyllic neighborhood, where life had seemed ordinary and safe, now buzzed with whispers and speculation. Friends and family struggled to process the shocking betrayal and the calculated revenge that had upended everything. The story of Raj's affair with Meera and Priya's brutal retaliation became a cautionary tale, circulating widely online and in local news, drawing attention from people far beyond their small town. Priya faced the consequences of her actions, but even in the legal process, her composure remained unnerving to investigators. She had anticipated every question, every challenge, and had meticulously documented evidence to support her claims of betrayal. While opinions were divided, some condemning the violence, others sympathizing with her heartbreak, the undeniable truth of the betrayal and the calculated precision of her revenge fascinated and horrified those who learned of the case. The psychological impact of the events lingered long after the immediate shock faded. Neighbors recounted feeling unsettled in their own homes, realizing that appearances could be deceiving and that even the closest families might harbor unimaginable secrets. Priya's story became a symbol of how betrayal, when left unchecked, could escalate into darkness, and how vengeance could emerge from the most unexpected corners of human emotion. Though Raj and Meera would have to confront the consequences of their actions, it was Priya's story that dominated the narrative. She had been pushed to the edge, and in her grief and anger, she had taken control of the situation in a way that left everyone around her stunned. The tale of betrayal and revenge served as a chilling reminder that trust, once shattered, could ignite a chain of events with irreversible consequences, and that sometimes justice is delivered in the most unexpected and terrifying forms.